We are so honored to be hosting for the first time virtually, but not the first time, Christopher Buehlman, who's the author of five previous works of horror: Those Across the River, Between Two Fires, The Necromancer's House, The Lesser Dead, and The Suicide Motor Club. He is here for his very first fantasy novel, which has been The Blacktongue Thief, which has been getting raves across the board. Booklist wrote, full of adventure, magic, humor, and a touch of romance, The Blacktongue Thief exhibits a fully realized fantasy world. From card games to songs to long ago wars, this world is lived in and awash in intriguing details. Give to readers eager for George R. R. Martin or Patrick Rothfuss, who are, I just want to say, who are getting a little irritated that those series aren't finished. Or to any fantasy fan, this is epic fantasy adventure at its best. In addition to his works of fiction, Christopher Buehlman is the winner of the 2007 Bridport Prize in Poetry and finalist for the 2008 Forward Prize for Best Poem. He spent his 20s and 30s touring Renaissance festivals with his very popular show, Christoph the Insulter and Veritable Mercenary, and now, as of now, lives in a cabin in the woods in Ohio. For this event, we are incredibly honored to have Boswell's Jason Kennedy as our conversation partner, who I want to say can go up against any Christopher Buehlman fan in the ring and intellectually beat them senseless. Thank you both. Welcome to our event. Where did Jason go?
I don't know, but thank you very much.
He's making one of those surprise entrances.
Maybe he is. Maybe he's got a zip line and he's going to come through the roof at your place.
I hope so.
I
hope so. This is so odd. I'm hoping he's back soon. He's actually gone. So what I'm going to say is, why, now that I'm doing the conversation for the moment, I would love to say, I wish Jason gave me the questions, but also, would you say a few words of introduction about the book? And would you be interested in reading a page or two just to get a feel? You're a wonderful reader. You're a wonderful reader.
Okay, thank you.
Who cares if it's virtual?
Okay.
I still want to hear you read a little.
And I still want to read a little. All right.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Okay. So yes, this is The Blacktongue Thief. Here's the ARC, right? And it is a dystopian high fantasy novel in a manner of speaking. Hold on a second. Is that on me? No, it's on the bookstore. Okay. It is about a fellow named Kinch. He's a thief. And he will go on an epic adventure with a knight whose name is Galva. And he will be sent on this by the Takers Guild. Basically, it's a very brutal thieves guild, which he owes a great deal of money for his education. And this is how they get you. They go around and they recruit everybody and put them in schools. Everybody thinks they're going to thieves school. There he is. Hello, welcome back.
Oh, sorry, the power went completely out of my house for a minute.
Oh, yeah. Those rats will chew those cords.
Yeah, we're having way too many issues over here. So sorry about that.
That's okay.
We're just doing a short introduction, a tiny bit of reading, and then I was trying to remember all the questions you said to me. But thank goodness you came on because I couldn't remember.
So yeah, I was just saying this is a world controlled by a brutal thieves guild. It is a world that is scarred by a series of 3 horrific goblin wars that make World War I make one reminisce for the Somme. And there have been great societal upheavals. We don't have horses in this world because the goblins brewed up an equine plague called the Stumbles. And we have almost no men because the second war, the Threshers' War, was just so bad. They nearly won it. And everybody, everybody in this world, all humans in this world, would probably be on man farms in the Goblin Horde lands had not the women stepped up in the third war called the Daughters' War. But so we've got a world where most of the men died of a certain age, and the women have stepped into positions of power because most of them went off to war and came back and assumed leadership positions. And so this is a world that has been turned on its head. And in this world, we have our thief, Kinch. He's the Blacktongue Thief because he literally has a black tongue, because his countrymen, the Galts, which are analogs to Celts of some sort. I didn't think of them as like exactly Irish or Welsh or Scots, but perhaps a cousin tribe that would be recognizable. But their tongues are black, and it is rumored it is because they have the blood of elves in them. There are no more elves in this world, if there ever were. So Kinch will be sent on a grand adventure. But let's go ahead and read you. We'll go ahead and read. I've been reading the beginning of it so much that I'm actually eager to read something else. So I'm going to read a scene toward the beginning where our man Kinch has been caught for rescuing he rescued a cat, but in doing so, he sort of offended somebody with a knife, and has been sent before the clerk justice. So here we're going to hear a little scene between him and this older fellow. And here we are. Guild, eh? The clerk justice said in the wobbly candlelight of the jail. Crutches leaned against the wall behind him. Yes, sir. The sirs won't help you any more than your guild will, Blacktongue. You know what they say about caught thieves, eh? I'm not a thief. Yes, and I'll just put the tip in. We know how these things go. What do your masters in the guild say about caught thieves, boy? Something about branches? Pruned branches feed the tree. So what am I charged with? I didn't steal anything. Man says it's his cat. I touched it first. Doesn't that make it my cat? That's as the law says. So can I go? It's like you could if you hadn't pulled a knife on the squire, and I say squire with a deep sense of irony. You're too smart for this work. I could say as much to you, cat grabber, purse snipper, prank. Do you deny tripping the one and abusing the other with a knife? Not a big knife. Why do it? Cat's blind. It wasn't sporting. Sporting. There's a word you normally only hear out of rich mouths. You rich cat pincher. Do I look it? Oh, you look worn and dirty, I grant, but hardly run before the boar. Your split-toed thieving boots are decently made, and that is not a poor man's blade on your belt. And I am rich. I have 100 gold lions and 1,000 silver owlets waiting on my ship in the hot sea. I'm going to go find a mermaid with a taste for old plums and a fortune in black pearls up her squinny and send her back to you. Mermaids don't have squinnies. It's what makes them a parable for life. Warm and welcoming for the first half, then it gets cold and hard and smells bad. But thank you for not being boring. You know how sick I get of hearing, spare me, justice, I am innocent, I swear by the gods. I had decided to hang the next squire told me he was innocent, especially if he was. Can I keep the cat? Cook him and eat him for all I care. Chains, damn! The woman who arrested me stepped forward, the blind cat docile in her fist, a half-dozen candles dancing in the darkness reflected by her armor. Give him back his loved child, then welcome them both to cell 3 West. They didn't even bother taking my knives off me. All right.
Oh, thank you.
You're
That was-
welcome.
That was a great scene. Which brings me into the, well, I just want to make a point to everybody, if they didn't know, and I found out and listened to your book read it the first time, then listened to it. It's amazing. And which brings me into my first question for you, which is, in the essence of world building, what came first, the story or the world? And in that, all the cultures, I mean, you have so many different dialects for different, for, you know, depending on what part of the world you're in and what characters you're talking with. It's amazing. Like, how did you balance all of that and write a really great story at the same time?
Thanks, Jason. Yeah, the story and the world were birthed in stages at the same time. They feed each other. You know, this is the way I usually write a novel, and this is no exception, is I will give myself a writing exercise. I will sit down and say, I'm going to write a scene from this story. In this case, I wrote the scene where I had a thief waiting in ambush, and a figure was coming down the road, and they were going to ambush this person. But in the first version, there were two massive differences. The person who was coming was male also, and and also it was written in the third person. But what I discovered writing, and I liked the scene that I wrote in the third person. You get to throw the camera around a lot more, but it was grim. It was grim. And I knew I was about to write a classic ass, grim, dark ass book. And there's nothing wrong with that. I like a grim, dark book. You know, Abercrombie's one of my favorite writers. I like it dark. Anna Smith Spark is a favorite writer. And boy, he doesn't get much darker than Anna Smith Spark. But I wanted more colors on my palette. And I decided to try writing it from the thief's perspective. And when I did that, that's when I discovered Kinch's voice. And I realized when I began to write him as this cynical, gallows humor, wise ass, Celt, I realized, or proto-Celt, I realized that I had a means by which to leaven the considerable darkness of the world, because the world itself is really, really bleak. You know, mankind, there are not friendly allied races. You don't have elves to go to as allies. You don't have dwarves or halflings. It's mankind, and they're sandwiched between fucking goblins and giants. And they don't have horses.
Yeah, the traveling through your world takes a long time.
A long time. Yeah.
So with that, did maps play an important part then in making this world? Maps,
oh,
yeah.
Oh yeah,
maps. So because as you're looking at the storyline and how, oh, there you go. Oh, that's cool.
My wife got me this for Christmas. There's a company who'll print a map on parchment, and she made that happen. So she got that map done by the brilliant Tim Paul, and he did it in color. Of course, it's only reproduced in black and white in the book. But she got that map made for me, and there it is. So yes, Jess, that map is rad.
Yes, that map is very rad. It's amazing. I really appreciated when you sent me the article you wrote about the map for Tor.com.
Yes.
I completely agreed with all the sentiments there that you had. But yeah, the map to me like shows you the depth of the world. But when you get that whole thing in there where the goblins have killed all the horses, it makes things going really slow.
Yes, in fact,
So,
and the first thing they do is they beat a fast path toward the sea because sailing is the fastest way to travel in this world. I mean, it's always been the fastest way, but traveling on horseback could sort of rival it a little, but not now. Not now. You might find an ox cart. Good luck getting somewhere quickly that way.
Yeah. So when writing this story, you really get the sense of all the different voices that are going on. How long did it take you to get the different voices of, like, say, Galva and Norago and that, all these characters that you wrote? And was it something that you went back, you wrote the story and you're like, I'm missing a character? Or like you were saying that the character that Kinch firstly goes up against in your first draft was a male.
Right.
I mean, I guess writing this series or this book, did you perceive it as a trilogy going into it?
Yes, I had the idea that I was going to have at least one more book, maybe more than one. I didn't really know, but as I got further into it, it felt like a trilogy. Not that I've written one before. I've only ever written standalone novels. The Lesser Dead and the Suicide Motor Club are kind of in the same world, but you wouldn't call one a prequel or sequel to the other, even though there's one character that's shared between them. But in this case, no, I didn't go back. I didn't go back and weave in any new characters. But what I did do from the first draft, what did happen was, in conversation with my editor, she said, I really love what you're doing with the fact that the men are mostly gone and it's a women-dominated world, really. She says, can you take that further? And I said, yeah. And I went back and I made a lot of secondary characters that you meet. I made a lot of them female, just guards, soldiers, the person in the town of Et who's in charge of the harbor. Those were male in the first version, and I made them female. But then I went, hold on, Galva, like Galva as this stoic male badass was a little flat for me, and also beta readers. And I thought, what am I gonna do with Galva? And I thought, holy shit, Galva's a woman. And that put a whole new layer on it. And thank God I did it that way, because, I'm aware of who I am and where I'm from and how old I am and all of that. So I know that I carry baggage. And I know that had I written Galva as a female from the get-go, I might have written that character differently. I might have been squeamish about some of the battle scenes. I might have been tempted to put some sexual element in there, which wouldn't have been great. So just making Galva a badass man and then changing it to a badass woman, and I just made myself change almost nothing else. This is simply because people are people, and that's a thing we try to talk to ourselves about the significance of gender. And I mean, and there are generalizations that you can make, but they are not universal. And I thought it was very instructive and very good for me to go ahead and make this a character who was simply a woman who would read no differently from a man. And I love what happened in some of the scenes. Like there's a scene where there's a battle in the woods early on with a group of brigands headed by a mixling called Hornhead, who's effectively a minotaur. And after the battle, they're cleaning up, and Galva goes to kill one of the wounded. And because she worships the goddess of death, she's not at all shy about sending someone to what she believes is the best way you could possibly go, which is death by having been in battle. And the first version of the scene was between two men, and we've seen that before. We've seen that scene. Someone begging for mercy and someone saying, no, I cannot deny you this gift, and sending them on. But it had a whole different feel to it when it was between two women. And I liked it. I liked that. Okay, if we're going to talk about, equity in a world, let's talk about it in warts and all. So, yeah.
That's fascinating. Yeah, I find that, like, depending on the books that you read, you always can see a little bit of the world in, like, our world that we even in fantasy novels. I felt like the whole idea of Kinch being part of the Thieves Guild and owing all this money because of schooling really kind of hit home. Hit home, I think, for a lot of people.
For a lot of people.
So when you're designing something like that, the Thieves Guild is such a complicated, it's bigger than nations.
It is.
How did you conceive of a Thieves Guild, and how it basically is underlining your entire novel with Kinch?
Well, again, in the first version, the Thieves Guild was smaller and less important. And the things that were happening in the far west were not necessarily connected, therein. Making a Thieves Guild that had its tentacles in more things gave me an antagonist. And it gave me, it seems like the goblins or maybe the giants are the antagonist, but the antagonist of this novel is the fucking guild. And we find its personification in the assassin Sesta, who was an antagonist I delighted in creating. She was kind of terrifying. So yeah, the guild evolved in, from the first draft through consecutive drafts.
Well, and that, yeah, the guild is scary as all get out. But also your magic system really allows all these, pretty much anybody can have some level of magic. How did you, like, there's so many different levels of going on in there and so many different proficiencies for people to have. How did you decide how you were going to use that in your writing? Because sometimes magic can be an easy cop out, and you can just say, oh, they waved their hands and they got through. But you didn't make it that way.
No. The first time I used magic in a novel was in The Necromancer's House. And the way I had that work was I assigned a very specific and high price to the use of magic. If you ever go back and read The Necromancer's House, you might conclude that using magic is simply not worth it, because so many bad things get invited into your life when you do it, and it costs so much to maintain it. The magic in this world is not as pricey as the magic in The Necromancer's House, but it is pricey. There's a scene where we see Galva riding a clockwork horse that was made by the witch Deadlegs. And Galva says, an army with 100 of these horses might turn a battle. And Deadleg says, yeah, but the problem is you'd need 100 witches of my strength to make these, and there aren't but 5 or 10. And it cost me a whole summer to make 1 hour of that clockwork horse. So don't waste it. Yeah. I like putting limits on magic. You have to put limits on magic if you're going to write interesting magic. I mean, if wizards can just incinerate an army, then what good are armies? Why would it not all be about magicians, right? Mm-hmm. And that's why I had the idea that metals affect magic in this world. Like, if you're wearing iron or steel, it damps magic. And you have in our mythologies, you have precedent for that. The idea that iron is not something Fae would enjoy, for example. So iron and steel damp magic, but copper and brass and colored metals can amplify it somewhat. And formerly living materials like, wood and leather can also amplify it. So you can sort of tell whether a party or an army or whatever is relying on powerful magickers by what they're wearing when they present to you. If they're coming at you in steel and iron and chainmail and armor, they're hoping magic isn't going to be a factor in the fight. And if they're coming to you in leather and brass rings and copper, then they probably got some powerful magic and you should watch out.
Yeah, the details are just fabulous. Which I would say, let's see here, do we have any? Oh, no, I was just double checking to make sure if we had any questions from the audience. Feel free to ask questions. I would say that that the magic, the tattoos, it was so. I mean, I feel like you must have been working on this book for 10 years.
4.
Or 4, yeah. But because of all the detail and stuff. So you have more story left in you.
Oh, yes.
Hopefully we'll see that not too distant future. But I have had a couple people ask questions via email to us, asking if you would be at all interested if somebody decided to turn this into a TV show or some multimedia film, big, huge budget.
Of course I would. Okay. Of course I would. Why wouldn't I?
And would you, if you could you conceive of that? I don't know. Could you conceive of that TV? How's the exact questioning? Would it be like TV, movie, or would you not care, or would you want to write it?
I believe that this would be a TV show. There's too much happening for a movie. There's just too much happening. And would I want to write it? Now that's an interesting question, because I've actually been dabbling in television writing. I don't know if you know, but I had my first TV episode aired. It was a segment on an episode, and that was in the reboot of Creepshow. I wrote a segment called "The Man in the Suitcase," and I never would have written that had I not already written pilots for Those Across the River, and also Between Two Fires. And I have also been developing a podcast for The Lesser Dead. So I've got some experience writing scripts now. And would I want to write it? Possibly, but it is such a massive undertaking that for me to commit at the age of 52, which is not old, but it is not young, for me to commit to something like that could mean years, many years potentially, of not writing novels. And I don't know. My answer is I don't know. If I wrote this series, if I wrote all 3 books and loved them and thought these were the magnum opus of my life, and then had the opportunity to bring them to a television audience, and I thought that was what I wanted to be remembered for, I might do that. But if somebody presented me a plan with very talented writers, and I could consult with them and yet go continue to write other books, I might do that.
That is fair. I agree with the Ogie's thing. I'd watch that show in a heartbeat too. I don't know who would play Kinch, but it would be an amazing show.
Right?
Oh, it would be so much fun. I mean, just the imaginative curse words that pop up everywhere, and yeah, it should be great. So Jess on here asks a question: what research, if any, was necessary to complete the book?
What research was necessary? This one really didn't take much, if any, research. Okay, yes, there was some research. There was linguistic research, because I've got languages in here. and snatches of languages, I should say. And I speak decent Spanish and I speak good French. So it was not difficult for me to craft an Hispanthian language, because Hispanthia is an analog of Spain, Portugal, Catalonia. It is, again, it is a lost sort of Iberian country. So triangulating and looking at those languages, that's how I came up with the things that Galva says in her language. But I don't speak any Irish or Welsh or Scottish. So for the Galtish stuff, I did have to go and look at the Irish language to look at structure and some almost homophones in the language, because I wanted it to feel like a Celtic language.
I would definitely say that when I was reading the book, it felt like I was sitting in a bar with Kinch and he was just talking about the whole story. And so I feel like, and listening to the audiobook is even more so. And the singing, I love the singing.
That's not me.
That's not you?
No, I sing like a baby moose being kicked to death.
Oh, okay.
That was a friend of mine named Andrew Sklar, who's a brilliant singer and also brilliant at coming up with melodies. And I convinced Tor to hire him to be my song stunt double, because Kinch says in the beginning, he says, I'm a decent fiddler and you wouldn't punch me in the throat for singing near you, but you might punch me in the throat for singing near you.
Fair. That's funny. So we got research there. All right, no more questions. I think we answered that hopefully well. Let's see what I have in the email. And oh, you already answered that one. Did you have any unexpected trouble or challenges in writing a first book when you knew that there was going to be more books later?
Oh, that's a very good question. It made me hesitant and careful, because I knew that I was setting the rules I would have to abide by for, another 250,000 words, right? But I wouldn't say I had trouble. I would just say it made me wary. It made me interested in trying only to develop things that I was willing to respect later. Like it might have made me not make blanket declarations about things I didn't want to have to decide yet.
And okay, can you see the questions too or no?
I can see the chat
bullet
questions.
point?
I can't see your email questions.
Oh no, not the email. I was talking about the question and answer.
I can see the chat questions.
Okay.
Oh, is there a Q&A? Oh no, I don't have that. I was on chat. Q&A. Oh, there we go. Jess Smiley wants to know if I will insult her. Oh, she's been stuck in bed for 2 years. All right. Jess, I will, I would normally say come to the fair, but you can't. So yeah, okay, Jess. You fart like a wounded thing. You are a fart pants, Jess, and even now your doughy buttocks are pinching back a fart that, if you were unkind enough to unleash, would be hot enough to melt pewter and light damp mulch on fire. You are not going to heaven farting as you do, because the acid content in one of your mall slut chili dog farts would molt the feathers off the angel's wings, ruin all harp music, and bleach the colors out of sunset. Your fart in heaven would so enrage the soul of Mahatma Gandhi that he would punch the soul of Mother Teresa in the box. You never stop farting, Jess. It's like your ass has a third lung. You should duct tape a harmonica to your pooper, so at least if the rest of us have to smell your bad air, we can sing the blues. Feel better, Jess, please.
Oh man, that's like poetry.
You should do the show sometime.
Oh, I've been to your show.
Oh, have you? All right.
Oh yeah, but that was pre those, those across the river. That was
Sure.
that was before.
Back in the day.
That was back in the day.
Okay.
That's before I knew who you were other than the insulter.
That's right. I mean, you're from the Milwaukee area. It's likely you've been to Bristol, so that makes sense.
Yeah. Which I would say is probably kind of a little bit of research, like you having these years and years of Ren Fair. It's a little bit like you were doing research for writing this novel, this novel at all. Like I feel like there's a little bit of kinch in you.
You know what? It's interesting as for a long time, I felt kind of bad that I didn't go get an MFA, in Iowa or Ann Arbor or somewhere. And I just went on the Renaissance Festival circuit. But if I look at my writing history, like I wrote in my 20s, I wrote poetry and insults. In my late 20s and early 30s, I wrote insults and plays. And then I learned how to write novels in my late 30s, and now I'm learning to write television. It's like I've gone through apprenticeships that are all valuable. Like the poetry has taught me imagery and brevity, and the insults taught me comedy, and the plays taught me dialogue. So, and then working Ren fairs has taught me how to oil leather and what it feels like to use a sword and what it feels like to use a bow. I've done those things, and I was a French major in college, and I've learned Spanish since, and so I know languages a bit. So I guess you could say I kind of spent my life build it at great length, learning the skills and getting the knowledge necessary to write exactly this book.
Yeah, there's nobody better that could I think that could write this book. So all right, I think we're good on questions. I don't have any more from the audience.
Jess called me a cark. That's amazing. Yeah, if you've read the book, you'll know that a cark. I made up some new slang in this book. So if you've read the book, you will know that a cark is a wet fart, and that a sprumlet is a particularly cute tuft of pubic hair. You're a sprumlet, Jess. You're a sprumlet.
Oh my God. Oh, somebody's asking about your knee.
Oh, about my knee. Yeah.
Yeah.
I slipped in the extremely slick, famously slick mud of Waxahachie, Texas, and fell and jacked my knee beyond all recognition as a human appendage. And because I have an HMO rather than a PPO, and apparently an HMO means hand money over in our badly broken American insurance situation, my insurance didn't work in Texas. So I had to fly home to Ohio and miss the last 2 weeks of fair so I could get medical attention. Can you imagine talking to a French person and saying, well, tell me what happened with your injury? Yes, well, you see, I was injured in Bordeaux, and even though the company that I have insurance with, it has an office in Bordeaux, I had to fly back to Normandy, where I am from, or they will not pay. I have to pay everything if I did not fly back. Why? I don't know. Because they say so. Fuck it. Fuck us. Why are we doing this? You know what? It's a form of corporate serfdom is what it is. Tying your insurance to your goddamn job. That's all that's happening. That's why the corporate lobby fights so hard to make sure we're scared of socialism, so we don't get actual single payer insurance that actually helps us like every other civilized country in the world has. Sorry, don't get me started. I guess you got me started. Yeah, it is what it is. I just
read the question.
Yeah, I know.
Oh man, no, but I agree with so much of that.
It sucks. It sucks, and we're led to believe this is the best it can be because we're frightened. we're intentionally frightened by corporations and the politicians they have in their pocket to think that it's free handouts if people get medical care paid for, instead of it just being a human right. And it's so fucking wrong. It's so fucking wrong. Do you wonder where my idea for the Thieves Guild came from? Do you wonder what society I live in?
And and that's, I was about to bring that back around because I feel like there's so many different things in the book that replicate in our life.
Right.
And I'd already talked about like how I thought the whole schooling debt thing was handled in your books, and just being oppressed and being underneath the thumb of invisible entities, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, but, no, Americans will relate to this book.
Yes, they will. So out of all the non-human, even, characters in this book that you have, I mean, you have battle corvids. What is your favorite creature that you would want to see live and in person?
I don't want to see any of that stuff live and in person. I don't want to see a giant. I don't want to see a goblin. I don't want to see a kraken. Maybe, I mean, the only thing I could possibly say would be a war corvid, because they're an allied, helpful species, even though they are dangerous, very dangerous too. As is discovered, I really enjoyed a scene late in the book, and this is not spoilery, where there were some war corvids and a donkey was left near them, and that was unfortunate for the donkey. The only time you ever see Galva scared, or looking like she might be almost scared, is when the corvids are surrounding a dead, eviscerated donkey, and Kinch is so mad he knocks an arrow and goes to shoot the corvids, and Galva goes, "No, no, no."
Oh yeah, war corvid. I love those.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think I would want to see a war corvid, but yeah, I agree. Everything else you made, I would be scared to see.
Horrible. You never want to see a goblin.
No, and I don't know if I would bring up the scene that I had to read like 3 times because it was beautifully written. The pull. Yeah. Just everybody read the pull.
We can't say anything about it.
No, can't say anything about it. It is just horrific and frightening, all, and just anxiety inducing too. Okay. Looking for more questions here from the audience. No questions. War corvids. Nice rant. Very nice. What authors, like you mentioned some authors earlier, like Abercrombie. No, that's not his name, right? Yeah,
Joe Abercrombie.
Joe Abercrombie, which I've only read a few of his books. What other authors have you that you have taken some joy reading that you would recommend people read if they liked your book?
Yeah, absolutely. I will say that the other book that does thieving well is Michael McClung's Amra Thetis series, starting with The Thief Who Pulled on Trouble's Braids.
Oh, I don't know.
These things are tonally similar, like almost a cousin. Like I wasn't aware of it before I was writing mine. I started reading these while I was writing mine, but I was like, holy shit, this guy's onto a very similar vein. So I would say Amra Thetis by Michael McClung. That is really fun stuff. Really fun stuff. It's not as dark, but it's entertaining. It's highly entertaining.
Okay.
Yeah.
What would you suggest if this is everybody's first book that they're introduced to you? Mm-hmm. What book would you recommend that you would say, hey, you should try this from my backlog?
As we have discussed in private before, the one that is tonally closest would be Between Two Fires. Now, because of the status of Between Two Fires, it is I got the rights back myself, and I went ahead and self-published it through Amazon. It's not available through bookstores, or rather, it is available only with special order through bookstores. and I just and to be perfectly candid, I did that as a survival mechanism to get through the pandemic because I lost fares, and getting some real income from book sales was a very necessary thing. So the status of Between Two Fires may change in the future, but for now, you have to get it through Amazon. You can get it on your Kindle. You can get a copy. The Amazon copy does have a really fun cover. I like the cover art on it. It's kind of when Penguin did the initial version, I really wanted more of a death hell theme going on. And I liked the cover. It was beautiful, but it didn't really tell you what was in the story. But when you look at that red cover of the new Between Two Fires with the knight, the sort of the brass rubbing of the knight with a skull face, I mean, that kind of lets you know the feeling of the book. So I would say, yeah, pick up Between Two Fires.
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna say covers mean a lot. I love the cover for Blacktongue Thief. That cover is fantastic.
It's unlike anything I've seen before. They
Yeah.
showed it to me, and I was like, I didn't know what to make of it because I was, again, I got to recognize my own limitations. I'm an older guy, so my idea of a fantasy cover is Frank Frazetta, right?
Yes.
So I was like, what's going on with this? It's very yellow, but it's interesting. Okay, all right, we're doing this. So yeah.
Well, what's interesting is, and Daniel could attest to this, and he's probably listening in. And he can get what I get wrong on this correct, but the color, I forget who does it. The chrome color with the colors of the year are like some kind of gray and yellow.
Illuminating yellow, and it's something like perfect gray or something like that. Yeah.
And your cover pretty much works really well in the colors of the year. So,
we have a table of that, so you're featured on it. So only yellow and gray books for you. I assume the other two books in the series will be like black and a different color, so that they would look really cool together.
I would think so.
Well,
yeah, the artist's name is Marie Bergeron, and she's French Canadian.
oh, that's perfect.
Yeah, so I imagine they'll be hiring her some more.
Oh, they have to match.
They have to match.
They do.
All right, I'm going away again.
All right, bye, Daniel.
Hi, Daniel. So, yeah. Comes and goes as
he was like a sprite who just showed up at our campfire.
Now, I mean, this book to me was very tight. Like the story was tight. There was the writing was propelling. Was there anything in this book that you had to take out that you wish was still in there? Or did you conceive of the book you wanted and put it out there?
There were scenes that my editor felt should go, and they went, and she was right. There were a couple of scenes that would have bogged things down and not contributed that much, though they were fun. And there are times when you must sacrifice flourish for drive, and that was done. Oh, you're frozen. Perhaps I have frozen for you.
You're not frozen.
Oh, good. Okay. He's frozen. We'll visit him. He's like the captain from Dark Star.
Yeah, probably somebody aimed a laser at him, and he's probably out.
Right. Well, hopefully he will recover from this cancer.
I would like, because it's almost time for us to go, and I don't want him to have not said goodbye.
Right.
So,
right.
But I'm good at. Oh, nope, he's gone.
He'll come back though. He'll now know there's a problem and come back.
So, I'd like to say, ask more questions, but it's mostly just laughing. So
it's mostly just laughing.
Yes, that's what the chat seems to be mostly.
Oh yeah, I see that. Yeah.
I have been saying Jason read the book, then he listened to the book, and then I was going to mention the third time I had acted out the book for him with puppets, but
Oh, we have a new question. Have you ever modeled a character after someone you know? Yes, but I can't tell you.
No. And this is the best part. If they're a villain, they didn't catch it.
Right. Or if they're a particularly nasty villain, even if they caught it, they wouldn't tell anyone.
Well, that's probably true. But people, it's funny how people don't see themselves in the negative things, but they're constantly trying to see themselves in the positive characters.
Right. To be perfectly honest, the times that I've modeled someone after somebody I know very specifically have maybe, I can count them on one hand in 6 novels.
Okay.
So it's not a thing I do
All right.
normally. And it's been almost universally positive.
So now you've written poetry, plays, television, novels in multiple genres. Do you feel like, and I know you were saying, I don't want to get caught up in a television thing because it's going to take, just want you to know I was listening even though I wasn't there. You know, like you don't want to all your time. But what frontier do you have to conquer, do you feel?
Yeah, that's a good question. Feature film.
Adaptation of one of your works or something completely original, or
either or. I have actually written a feature film adaptation of The Suicide Motor Club. And my book to film agent has shopped it. He has not found a home for it yet.
Okay, I have a question for you.
Sure.
And this is sort of playing on, you know, you're well read in these sort of things. He's almost here, but I'm asking my question anyway. If you were going to, if somebody said, you know something, you do an amazing job with these screenplays. We'd love you to adapt somebody else's work. What would be a book that you would want, that you feel like you could bring something to a book that you've really loved to create a film that would have your touch, but would still have that, you know what I mean? Like would.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, when I heard they were going to do a television version of The Stand, I was interested in that. That would have been a fun thing I would have lost a year or two of.
Okay, you'd be willing to give up a year for that.
If it was just the right thing. Like I might do it again for an Abercrombie book, especially Best Served Cold. That's my favorite of his. But the list is real short because I've got my own stuff to write.
That's right. I mean, it takes a little bit of sacrifice and a lot of love. All right, back to our regularly scheduled interviewer.
Thank you, Daniel.
Oh yeah, this is the power outages today are driving me nuts. What were we talking about?
Oh, we were talking about adaptations, but screen. We were talking about whether I had ever modeled a character after somebody that I knew. Somebody's writing. Have pets ever gotten in the way of your writing? Yes, just about every goddamn day. This cute ass little puddle of ink, Jane, will assemble on my lap, and I will be loath to move her. So I will lose 10 minutes to an hour finding things that are constructive that I can do just on my phone, and then move to the writing room. So yes, pets regularly get in the way of my writing.
Well, and they also help with at the end of your book, you mentioned kind of the inspiration for Bully Boy.
Luther.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was really sweet. If you go to my Facebook page, I just posted a new picture I found of Luther that's very Bully Boy like. So if you want to get a mental image of Bully Boy as the author saw him, look at that picture. So yeah, Christopher Buehlman Facebook author page. Follow that. That's where I obviously post all my writer stuff on Facebook. I have an Instagram too, and that is Buehlmeister, Buehlmeister So yeah. But what was the question? We were talking about pets. Oh, inspiration. Luther, he just showed up on my doorstep in New York State. And I was a dog person, and here was this cat who decided I was his person. and he meant it. And he would not take no for an answer, and he lived on my lap, and I could wear him like a stole. And he was the sweetest and gentlest creature I think that I've ever met. And I only had him for 3 years before he passed because he was sick. But I miss him every day. I do. And I have a great cat right now. I mean, Jane is incredible. I've had two really good cats in a row, and my wife informs me that that's not always the case. But but I feel very lucky, very lucky indeed in my feline companionship.
Oh, very nice. Do you have any other pets?
I do. I have a dog named Duck, and she is a rescue dog. She's half Shiba Inu, half pit bull. So I imagine some redneck geisha hookup in the wilds of Texas. That's where she was found. She's getting older. She's 13 and a half now, and she's got some health challenges.
Oh yeah.
So, where I'm in that place pet owners get to, where you're looking at the calendar going, how long, and you try to stay present, but it's hard. But she's still pretty happy, still pretty spry. It's just, you know, nothing is forever, but you know that it's a shorter kind of not forever.
Exactly. Oh, here we go. Our friend Jess has written, would you rather fight Stephen King or Neil Gaiman?
Oh, Jesus. Neither one. Oh my God. Are you kidding me? No, I love them both. I would not harm a hair on either of their heads. So no, I'm not taking the bait.
No, that would be, yeah, that's a fool's choice there.
Yeah, no, not having any. Don't ask me about Bill O'Reilly.
Oh yeah, no, we're not going to give you any of the political people because I kind of feel like I know where that would go pretty quickly. I think somebody up here wrote that Suicide Motor Club was their favorite book.
I saw that. Oh, I have something to say to that person.
Okay.
If you liked the Suicide Motor Club, I just finished a book today that reminded me more of the Suicide Motor Club than anything else that I've read. But it was very much its own thing, very original. I just read, and I'm kind of late to the party on loving on this because everybody's loving it, and they should, because it's one of the best books I've read this year, if not the best. But it's Blacktop Wasteland by S.A. Cosby. God damn, that's a good thriller.
And I believe we're hosts. We're doing a virtual event with S.A. Cosby.
Oh my God. Wow.
Daniel could correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's
I still want to meet the dude. It's such a good book. It's such a good book.
Yes, we hosted him for Blacktop last year, which is so good. And then his new book is called, he's got another new book out, Razorblade Tears, and our event's on July 20th.
Yeah, I want to read that. I do. I just finished Blacktop today, and I was like, man. And it kind of got me out of a reading slump. I have not been connecting with the books I've been picking up this year the way I normally do. Like last year, I'm a slow reader. I mean, I see people saying they read 100 books. I'm like, what? Like, no, I can't do that.
You're too busy writing.
That's true too. I mean, that's true too. But
and playing with cats. But between the two of them, it really cuts into reading time.
But S.A. Cosby, man, that is a damn fine book. It just moves. It's so fast. It's so good. So yeah, you love the Suicide Motor Club? Read Blacktop Wasteland.
Well, I think that's going to hit a lot of people's lists here then, because I love both the lesser ones, right? And Suicide, Lesser Dead.
The Lesser Dead.
Yeah, I loved both of those last two. The last two horror novels you wrote.
Thank you.
I would love. You ever think about going back to horror? Oh, you do? Okay.
I will.
Oh, you will.
Yeah, I got two more fantasy novels to write, and it's gonna take a minute. I'm not gonna Rothfuss this thing, but I mean it's not quick.
I love how you used his name in that.
It's getting long enough. It should be a verb.
Yeah. Well, and you did the rough it, and you didn't say Martin, who's doing just as poorly, but
I wouldn't
has
say-
come out with
Yeah.
way more stuff than.
And I wouldn't say poorly for either of them. These are both masters, and they're both wonderful.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Love
Not
what they do.
poorly in writing, but poorly in
It's
publishing.
keeping their editors happy.
Yes, keeping their
They're doing
editors
a poor
very.
job keeping their editors happy, I suspect.
Yes.
Because I know it's not pleasant for me to think of what my editor, Lindsay Hall, might do to me if I were to say, I think I need 6 years.
You should have that bulletin, the spreadsheet that everybody's always talking about with Brandon Sanderson, like where you are. You can work on everything at once.
Oh.
Yeah, don't even look at that.
To me,
even
maybe
look at that.
on the other hand, don't even look.
Yeah, that guy goes to his writing to a very disciplined level, very disciplined.
And I'm a pantser.
Yeah, see, yeah,
Big
you don't.
pantser.
Yeah. So like this question here, this person kind of fits into this. He goes, what is your schedule like when you're writing a book?
Yeah. Well, typically what happens is I wake up around 7 if I can. I wake up at 7 and I will try to read something. I have a little breakfast and coffee, try to read something for like an hour because that sort of oils up the gears of the factory, right? And then I'll write till lunch, I'll write for 4 or 5 hours. Hopefully I'll get 1,000, 1,500 words at that session. I'll do lunch, take a break, give myself an hour to do like business, any stuff that I got to do. And then I'll try and do another session of writing from like 2 or 3 until like 5 or 6. Then I will then I will work out in some way, whether it's a long walk or if I'm in a place where I'm running or weight training. Because I've learned I don't have a friendly metabolism. So if I don't exercise a lot, I put weight on. And writing is a sedentary business. So I've learned that I have to make exercise part of my writing day if I don't want to be in a scooter. Not that there's anything wrong with that if that's where you are, but I would like to avoid that. So yeah, and but then the evenings are mine. I'm not somebody who will push through and work all night. I don't think that's good for my sanity or the writing. So I try to consume things I enjoy, whether it be more reading or spending time with my wife, and we watch movies a lot. We drink good wine and watch movies, man. That's most of our evenings.
I was gonna say it's probably especially the last year.
Right. Yeah, this is again why I'm like pushing the young people to go and take up the torch of the pandemic is over. Let's have orgies, because I'm an old guy who sits on this couch and watches Netflix now. But at 25, I'd have been responding differently to the situation. But I'm 52, man. It's a different world.
Yes, and it's definitely a different world. So we got that answered. Was there another question? No, that was the one question there. Do you, when you write, do you just work on one idea, one book at a time? Do you write do you have like side stories to like whet the palate to like say?
It depends on what projects I've got going on. Like right now, like I mentioned, I'm adopting a podcast for the Lesser Dead, and Echoverse is going to be putting that out soonish. And I'm pretty proud of it. And I wrote every episode. So if you enjoy my writing, keep your eyes open for the Lesser Dead podcast, because that will be my, entirely my authorship, at least the first season. But we're heading into a period where there's going to need to be some post-production work for that. But also, I need to get on the horse with this second book. So what's probably going to happen is I will dedicate the first 2/3 of my day to the novel, and then I might have an hour or two to do other things like the podcast in the evening. So I will not have the luxury of writing only one thing soon, but I can manage it.
Yeah, it seems like a good problem to have to be very in demand with all your projects. I'm excited about The Lesser Dead. Is that going to follow the book?
Fairly closely.
Okay, so 70s New York.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that book.
Yeah. I made some fun discoveries writing the podcast, so there will be some new stuff.
Let's see here.
Right.
I don't think we have any more questions. And
All right. Yeah,
we've run through my gauntlet of questions that are not spoilery, because I have lots of spoilery ones that I could, but that might take a book.
No spoilers. Not
no
too-
spoilers.
No spoilers.
No spoilers.
Okay.
You can do your spoilers later.
That's right. I'll come to the store and we can talk spoilers.
Absolutely, that'd be fun.
Yeah, well, this has been lovely. Thank you for having me.
Yeah,
We couldn't be more honored. Could we, Jason?
We could not be more honored.
Well, it is mutual, and Jane was saying nice things too. So
Ah,
we all had a good time.
yay. Meow.
Row.
Well, thank you so much. Continued success. Looking forward to the second book. And thanks for everyone coming. We wouldn't have a virtual bookstore without you. Hope to see you in another event.
Indeed. Thank you, gentlemen. Good night.
Good night.